Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Ari Talks About Music. I'm Ari, and today I'll be reviewing the new Tyler the Creator album, Don't Tap the Glass. Don't Tap the Glass is the ninth album from the American rapper Tyler the Creator, who has had easily one of the absolute best runs of hip hop albums in recent memory, with every single album pretty much from Flower Boy onwards all being absolutely fantastic, with there just being so many styles and concepts explored among all of these albums. And Don't Tap the Glass is definitely the most simple and straightforward of the bunch, coming in at only just under half an hour long and not really having any huge concepts like many of the others do. And in a way, it does almost kind of make the album as an experience just a little bit underwhelming, especially with how it was effectively just surprise dropped about a week ago, with practically no warning or major singles or anything like that. But in a way, an album rollout just like that does suit this album just with how simple and lighthearted a lot of it is. And I think in a way, it's actually quite nice to have such a different album from Tyler, with this project pretty much just being a very straightforward and simple hip hop album with lots of elements of dance and soul in there as well, which is evident pretty much right away on the opening track Big Poe, with these really cool synth riffs that in a way almost have a little bit of a darkness to them still. I'd also love how chaotic this track is, and it does almost verge on being messy, but in a way that it still manages to thrive on really well. Sugar on My Tongue is just an absolutely fantastic dance track. I love how upbeat it is, as well as the absolutely incredible electronic instruments that I think are used really well. I also just want to take a moment to mention how incredible Tyler's vocals are on this track, definitely having some of the most catchy vocal harmonies, as well as in general just how playful he manages to sound while singing. Sucker Free, for the most part, is just a pretty average Tyler the Creator song, with there also, and I do quite like how there are various different references to other songs of his within the lyrics. This overall is somewhat of a filler song, not necessarily in a way that makes it boring or generic, but more so in a way that it just slots neatly into the album without making a big deal over itself, and still manages to suit the flow of the album quite well, even if the actual song isn't hugely memorable on its own. Mom and M is just a short and fun interlude of sorts that is just quite playful and light-hearted more than anything. I do still like the quite intense vocal deliveries from Tyler, while the very stripped-back instrumentation in the background still manages to build quite a lot of tension. And I do really wish that the following track, Stop Playing With Me, kind of made a bit more out of that tension, being still a very good song on its own. However, it doesn't really continue the momentum that I wish that it did. However, I do still really like the much more serious and aggressive tone that this song takes, which I think still gives it a lot to offer and definitely makes it one of the more unique songs on the album. Ring Ring Ring, I think, is a fantastic song that sees Tyler exploring the more soul side of his sound, just with the much higher pitched vocals and of course the super smooth production. The vocals definitely have to be one of my favourite things about this song, just with how dreamy he manages to sound, especially during the chorus, even while being so high pitched, which I think just demonstrates his versatility and absolute talent as a vocalist. I also really like the way that the phone ringing sound effect is used as an instrument in this song, which obviously ties really well into the song's title and the lyrics, but is still just a really unique and unconventional sound to add to the song that fits in really well. The title track, sonically at least, almost sounds like it could have been a song off of Chromacopia, just with the very manic and harsh production, as well as Tyler's much more aggressive and gritty approach to his rapping. I also do quite like Tweakin', which is, I guess, somewhat of a bonus track tagged on the end of the title track, which I think just does a good job at kind of continuing the sounds and themes that you see on the main leg of the song, although this time with a lot more electronic influence, which I actually really like and I think suits the flow of the song and the whole album really well. Don't You Worry Baby is an absolutely fantastic soul track, at least in terms of its vocals, with of course an absolutely fantastic feature from Madison McFerrin, who provides most of the vocals for this song. And even then, I also love the still much more hip-hop sounding instrumentation, which I think even in combination with the much softer and soul-like vocals still is a great combination. I find it unfortunate how much I'll Take Care of You I think kills the album's momentum quite a bit, with such a long intro not being the best choice in terms of pacing, especially for an album that's only 28 minutes long. And even then, I do find the build-up to be very underwhelming, just being mostly instrumental focused, and especially with such a harsh and gritty production style on this track, without too many vocals to balance it out, it overall just doesn't really sound all that good. But then the closing track, Tell Me What It Is, just goes again full soul, especially with its vocals, even almost as if this one could have been a song off of Eagle. I think that for a closing track, there is definitely a noticeable lack of a climax, which I think is a bit of a shame, especially for a song like this one that obviously ends the album. However, again, like I keep saying, for an album as short and as lighthearted as this one, it's really not the end of the world. And there's definitely still something to be said for just a simple closing track that just cuts to the chase, and just ends the album in a way that any other song would have done. And it's a song that doesn't really draw any more attention to itself than any of the others really do. And so even though I'm obviously still a huge fan of many of Tyler's albums in the past, having these big and epic concepts, I still really do appreciate this album for just being as fun and lighthearted as it is, and obviously is focused much more on the music than the actual lyrics, which I think is something he does so incredibly well with all of the elements, obviously of hip hop, but of soul and even dance music in the mix there as well. And which is why I'm going to be giving this album an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please be sure to listen to this album yourself and tell me your thoughts below. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and please leave a dislike if you didn't like the video, and remember to stay hydrated.